Hi friends, this is your pal Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Heroes of the Borderland, the brand new starter set that's coming out, and these class boards. Absolutely fascinating, and I'm really curious what this means for the future of Dungeons and Dragons. So let's talk about what's happening with these class boards in Heroes of Borderland. There's a lot of talk about these because it is a fundamental innovation. It's a fundamental change in how we process the character sheet in Dungeons and Dragons. So let's take a look at like Cleric. So what they have in the box right now is you get Heroes of the Borderland, and they process this for all four major classes. So fighter, wizard, cleric, rogue, right? That's the core four, right? But let's look at just cleric, and it's the same. This is the same for each of the other classes, right? So when you get that, if you pull out the cleric boards, there's two, right? They're full color. They're like a laminated sheet. Like they're a glossy paper colored sheet, right? And it has information, and there are two of these boards, and they're double-sided. So board one is level 1 of the cleric. Flip it over and it's level 2. Okay. Then you get level 3, and level 3 is cleric level 3 light domain. Okay. And then it's cleric level 3 life, L-I-F-E domain, a different domain. So 4 sheets to cover three levels, and this is fascinating. Now, what's interesting is we're gonna train up these new dungeon masters and these new dragon masters to use these, and then they're gonna hit level 4, right? And what are they gonna do? And so there's two paths, right? You go okay, now we graduate to the tax form, right? This really terrible character sheet where you have to fill in everything's written down. But that's going to be hard for people to do because these class boards and the Heroes of the Borderland has specifically trained them not to write anything, right? It's cards, it's these class boards, it's tokens. Like, you don't write down your hit points, right? You actually use tokens to track your hit points. And so this becomes a major change in how the game functions. And what's really fascinating to me is, so what you could do is you could go to, okay, we've rolled all the way through level 3. Now we're at level 4. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to create a new level 4 class board. And so there's this new like wave of dungeon masters and dragon masters that are like, we're going to build a board for every level. Okay, so that's one path through play, and that's pretty fascinating because they can break, and they've already done this. Like they're already breaking the rules with Hero of the Borderland, which is D&D. There's nothing more D&D than breaking raw, right? Like it's literally like the way Gary structured it. He's like, hey, you're gonna modify this for you and your players, right? And so there's no stigma. In fact, there's a stigma if you just play raw. It means you don't have any imagination. You don't really understand the freedom that Gary gave. But what's really wild is I'm thinking, okay, so we go to level 4, but rather than giving one board to each player, you could give 3 boards, right? An interaction board, an exploration board, and a combat board. A board that gives different powers for when your player character's in combat, and a whole set of powers that are specifically when you're doing interaction with non-player characters, and a whole set of powers when you're exploring, when you're going through the wilderness, or when you're leaping over a chasm, right? Or when you're spelunking down into a cave, right? And so that would be boards differentiated by the 3 pillars of Dungeons and Dragons. And the other thing is, Warhammer a while ago had, I played the Warhammer tabletop role-playing game, and they had these things called stances, right? Where you would put your character into a stance. And so you could have like 6 boards, all right? You could have or let's do like 5 boards. A board for interaction, a board for exploration, and then 3 boards for combat based on their stance, right? And then again, all of these would be differentiated by cards. So this is a huge new path forward for Dungeons and Dragons. And I think the biggest thing that's important to remember about this is permissioning. You're really looking at permissioning. That's really what's happening here, is the idea that you're permissioning player characters to do something specific. Very exciting. I'm extremely excited to see this starter set. And I think this class board is a major new path for Dungeon Masters and Dragon Masters, and we'll be creating a different kind of Dungeon Master and Dragon Master. Every single word you just heard in this video is my humble opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.